once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL and the NBA. I got a brand new video for you guys, man. 2018-2019 NBA season started yesterday. I apologize for those that were probably waiting for an NBA video from me yesterday, but didn't have sufficient time whatsoever to get the video done, so I apologize for that. But I do have a video for you guys today, and before I get started, like always, guys, I appreciate you guys drop a like. And if you're new to the channel and as of yet have not become a part of the DFS community, DFS Zone community, please subscribe down below, that red button there, and then right next to it on the right-hand side, make sure you put on that bell icon. Turn it on so this way you do not miss out on any of my NFL, NBA lineup advice videos as well as live shows. Okay, with that being said, man, we have a nice, long, big slate today. I think it's like 11 games here in the NBA. And what I'm going to do with the NBA, for those who were watching my NBA videos when I started 7 months ago here on YouTube, I pretty much started doing NBA. And at that time, I really didn't have anything else other than I was just taking a stab at this whole channel thing here on YouTube with NBA. And it was pretty much down to the last like month and a half of the season. But it was pretty nice. I did meet a lot of people, and I do see that out of my subscribers, I still have a lot of those individuals that were part of that back then. So I'm hoping to see some of those. And I know there's a lot of new viewers coming in from NFL or just seeing videos for the first time on DFS Zone as far as NBA is concerned. So I welcome you guys. I hope that you guys enjoy. I hope you guys do subscribe and put on your post notifications. And what are you going to get here when you tap into and you click on my channel for any NBA videos? I'm going to pretty much be similar to what I'm doing with NFL right now, because I'm a one-man show, to be totally honest with you, everybody. I pretty much do everything by myself. I don't have a team. I don't have people that I go to and get information from. I do all this research. I do all the work, the channel, everything, thumbnails. I do everything all myself. So it's a lot of work. Plus, I have 2 young children that I got to also make sure I put time for to spend with them and help them with homework. So again, it's just a lot of situations. But again, what you're going to get is you're going to get at least one. What I did in the spring at that time, I used to give a stud 5 for the NBA. I kind of felt that was pretty cool. I'm going to stick with the stud 5. I'm going to give you at least one stud that I believe is a great play in every position, and then I'm going to give a value play as well, or a player that I think is kind of being down, is not going to be in somebody's radar, has a great opportunity or a great matchup where they can be very valuable to us as far as the fantasy points are concerned. So I'm going to do a stud 5 and pretty much a value 5 pretty much on my NBA videos, just to shorten them, and at the same time just because I'm doing NFL as well. It's just a lot. Back then I had plenty of time. I used to go over each individual game, go over the implied totals, and tell you all kind of matchups. As time gravitates and we go more to the season, I'll be able to give you even more statistical stuff. But I'm going to stay with some basic stuff for the beginning of the year. Everything is going to be based out of last year's stats as well as fantasy point totals, defensive situations, who defended whom, who gave up the most points. All those little basic information is where I'm going to base my decisions on, and the actual plays that I'm going to give to you guys, as well as matchup and so on and so forth. So that's what you're going to get here. You're going to get at least some options. All right, so let's get started before I make the video too lengthy. So at point guard today, man, there's a lot of options here, but I'm bypassing a lot of the top tier guys here on FanDuel. I'm definitely going to give you the same play or maybe a different play for DK. Remember, here on FanDuel, they started doing this, they'll drop one of the players out of your lineup, so you're going to get the top 8. I would advise anybody, the right thing to do is maybe still get your lower value players. So my recommendation and tip is, at least the way I'm seeing this, which I'm going to start to play today, is that I believe I'm going to go with going like maybe with a 4,000, 3,500 type of plays. And you need to at least get 2 of them. And at least if one of them comes off and does very well for you, you will at least know that bottom tier one, if that guy only came up with 2 or 3 fantasy points, he's going to be out of there. So they're going to take the lowest score and bump it out. If you got 2 guys at 4K or 35 or 3,800, and one of them happens to have a great night and puts up 10, 15, 20 fantasy points, and the other one only puts up 4 or 5, you're basically gaining 22 fantasy points if you deduct the lower number and you take that out. So as opposed to just saying, hey, let me just roll up. Another strategy you can have is you can basically pay down for a budget bare minimum player, but then I think that's a little bit dangerous, because just in case you might not, that player, let's say he happens to put up 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, 9 fantasy points, I know it's just tricky. For me, in my opinion, I'd rather go with 3,500 to about 38 or even 4,000 and get 2 value plays that way. This way, one does well and the other one doesn't. That one is going to be eliminated. But very tricky. I'm going to get more into it as we go further into the season. All right, let's go over the plays. So at point guard, man, I really like going into today. I'm going to go a little bit low. And, man, this guy helped me out a lot last year. I've loved him over the years. I'm going to play him a whole lot during the course of the year because I know he's going to be solid, and that's Ricky Rubio. Now, granted, there's a lot of guys. D'Angelo Russell, I really like the spot he's in here against Detroit. I think Jeff Teague is in a great spot. I think Chris Paul obviously is in a great spot in a high-paced game against New Orleans, but I'm not willing to pay up there because obviously you got James Harden and a lot of good plays in that game as well. But Ricky Rubio for me at 6,600, and he's 6,900 on DK, so he's actually priced a little higher. At 6,600, pretty much I go by 5x value on NBA. I love going with that, at least with that in mind. At 6,600, you need about 33 from him. You need 34 at 6,900 on DK. He is more than capable of getting it. As you can see here, 13 points per game last year, 4.5 pretty much rebounds a game, 5.5 assists, 29 fantasy points per game. When you go here on his game log, as you can see in the last several games of the year, he was pretty much at about 35, with anywhere between 32, 33 fantasy points or better for like about the last 6 or 7 games. You know, when we look over, I'm going to go over to the cruncher. I use the cruncher a lot. As you can see, Ricky Rubio's right here. And I'm going to click on his matchup against Sacramento. And as you can see, against Sacramento, he was pretty darn solid. 28, 37, 38. That's pretty much about 30, I would say about 34 fantasy points, pretty much 34, 35 fantasy points. And you come over here to the minutes were outstanding, 29 or better in all 3 games. The usage rate, anytime I see somebody at 20, 21% or better, I'm definitely happy. 20, 28, and 23. And then, of course, he's going to get his shots. You know, he's an integral part of this offense for the Utah Jazz. You expect him to get shots. He came pretty close here on getting a double-double, 14-9 here, 10-7 here, as far as 14-9 and 10-8. I just love the matchup. I love the fact that he's had some great success. And when you look at Sacramento, they were one of the worst teams as far as defending against point guards and giving up the most fantasy points. They give up 10. They were the 10th most fantasy points to point guards last year, 28.2 fantasy points per game. And you got a guy here who's averaging 29 fantasy points per game and already has averaged nearly 35 fantasy points against this team. So again, Ricky Rubio is definitely in play for me, and he has 50-point upside. He is capable of getting you that. My second guy here, and this is going to be my value play for me today. I kind of like Patrick Beverley, man. He had a whole year to recuperate. He didn't, he played a little bit over the preseason, as you can see. And when I think of Patrick Beverley at 5,000, let me get him over here on FanDuel. Patrick Beverley here. I just like the matchup because he's going up against Denver. This is a pace game, and Denver likes to play that fast-paced game, and Beverley is a good defender. He's one of the better defenders in the league, which he has not played. As you can see here, he has no stats here, but 12.2. This is going back to his last year of playing. 12.2 points per game, 4 rebounds, pretty much 3 assists a game, 26 fantasy points per game. At 5,600, you need about 26 from him to meet value here on FanDuel. On DK, he's 5,100, not bad priced at all. You need about 26 over there as well. Over here, you need about, over here, you're going to need about 26, 27 on FanDuel. Versus Denver in 2016-17, going to his stats here on my fantasy cruncher. We'll tap in Denver. I love this fantasy cruncher. 25-26, he had that 13 spot here and almost a 29 spot here. 3 out of the 4 games, he had 25 or better. Look at the minutes. The minutes were just really fantastic. 28 or better in all 4 games. When he's healthy, he can be a great contributor to a team. He's capable of being an offensive weapon. And what I like best is that he's definitely a great defender. I mean, look at the steals. 1, 3, 5 steals here in the 4 games. And he also had 2 blocks. And he's capable of getting close. He got pretty much close to a double-double here, 11-9 in his last game against Denver back on March the 5th, 2017. So, I mean, again, the matchup is there. It's just simply I love the factors that he's going up against a team that loves to play a pace game. I like this game in general. I think that because I'm a fan of the Denver Nuggets. I love the way they play. I like that fast-paced game. But Patrick Beverley, to me, could be a very sneaky play here in this matchup. At 5,600 is not a bad deal. There are some other nice plays there, but I think he is the better one. that I really like. So going into it, he's going to be my value play at point guard. At shooting guard, my top play for this slate is Devin Booker. Devin Booker, even though on Fanduel he's a shooting guard, on DK he is a point guard, shooting guard, and he's probably going to play a lot of point guard this year. I mean, they're really going to try to bring Josh Jackson down from small forward. I think he's going to probably play more shooting guard himself, and Devin Booker is going to actually be the one who's going to facilitate this offense here for Phoenix. But Devin Booker, man, 24.9 points per game last year, 4.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 37.2 fantasy points per game at 8,200 here on FanDuel. That's, you need about 41 to cover his price as far as value, and then of course on 7,400 on DK. So you need about 36, 37 on DK. Very much attainable as he's averaging 37 here on FanDuel. And when we come over back to the cruncher here, I'll break down him a little bit more. Devin Booker, last year, as you can see against Dallas, he did have 22, 39, 44, and 25. Look at the numbers, though. More than 22 points, floor points per game. I mean, we're talking about floor points. I mean, we're not even talking about fantasy points. Floor points. He was taking massive shots. 19 here, 25 here, 27 here, 20 here. He was literally taking about 19, 20 shots per game. I mean, literally about 20. I would say if you tally this up, it's about 21, 22 shots per game. The minutes, outstanding. At least 30 minutes or better. Look at the usage rate. You know when he's on the floor, he's going to be the one who's going to handle the ball. He's the one who's going to take the most shots. I mean, Devin Booker is the Phoenix Suns other than Josh Jackson. I think those are two key integral parts of this team. Obviously, they do have TJ Warren as well. He's a bit older, but these two young guys here, got to be the ones to take the load on this team every single night. And Devin Booker, I mean, he thrives on this stuff. You could see it in his face that he wants to be the guy. So he's definitely in play for me tonight. I think he's the top stud. Going up against Dallas, Dallas is the 11th in the league last year in fantasy points given up to shooting guards. They were giving up 21.1 fantasy points per game. And again, you have a player here that can definitely easily get you 40 or better. I mean, he definitely has 50-point upside in Devin Booker. And and then he's averaging 29.5 already. I mean, 37.2 pretty much last year. So I mean, again, the matchup is just there. It's going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a fast-paced game. Definitely like Mr. Booker here. Nobody pretty much on Dallas, I feel, can definitely slow him down. As far as value play as shooting guard, man, I definitely love. It's going to come out of the woodworks, man, but I'm going way down here at the bottom. And I like Mr. Joe Harris for the Brooklyn Nets. Joe Harris on the Brooklyn Nets. You say why? Well, you know what? 10.8, almost literally 11 points per game last year, 3.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 18.3 fantasy points. I just love the price here on FanDuel. 3,900 for a guy that pretty much was involved in this offense throughout all the injuries Brooklyn had off and on last year with Hollis Jefferson, when Carroll was down, when Crabbe was down. This is the guy that stepped up, and even when those guys were a little bit healthy, he was still getting massive minutes. At 3,900, I love Joe Harris here today. Love him here today. Let's go over here to the cruncher. And Mr. Harris. Just look, this is the preseason right here. And he played pretty much 23 minutes or better during the course of the preseason. 23, 21, and 25. This is last season. As you can see, there were times here he was electrifying. 36, 30, 25, 43. Has 40-point upside. 31, 20. He was solid, playing massive minutes for the Brooklyn Nets. 29 minutes. Granted, there was a lot of injuries, and that's one of the reasons why I like him so much more today. If you go over to the game, a lot of reasons why. Crabbe is out. Only LeVert is going to be starting. So, he's going to come off the bench. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Nets start him, because the Nets are without Carroll, without Crabbe, and there's a game time decision on a hip injury for Mr. Hollis Jefferson. So no matter what, even if Hollis Jefferson's plays this game today, Joe Harris is going to get at least 20 minutes or more in this matchup, and he is capable. Joe Harris is capable of giving you 20 or more points in any given day. He's given 18.3, and as you can see, he has 35-point upside. Versus Detroit, in the games that he's played against Detroit, let's punch that in there. He did have a 32-point game against Detroit last year, 19, 16, and 14. And look at the floor points. At least 12 to 13 points per game from the floor. And he's taking the shots. Right here, he had pretty much 19 shots, 21 shots, 10 here, and 12 here. So he's taking shots. He's getting the minutes. He's going to get minutes here with those injuries to the Brooklyn Nets. In a pace game, Brooklyn definitely wants to pace up the game. Their best shot is to have Harris, Dinwiddie, DeMarcus, Mr. Russell. All of them are going to have to play very well, and LeVert, because their front court is really not that good. I definitely love Detroit's front court. Again, the Brooklyn Nets, their back court is going to have to do a better job. But Joe Harris is definitely one of my favorite plays at shooting guard as a Valley player. Small forward. A small forward, man, there's no doubt about it going into today. As small forward, I love Kawhi Leonard, man. He's in a new atmosphere, new team. He's going to be one of the leaders there. You got still Lowry over there. He's going to be the man, man. He's definitely my favorite play here today. I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays with this team. Last year, granted, last year had that injury. He was out pretty much the entire year. 16.2. If you're going to base his statistics from 2016, 16 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 32.5 fantasy points per game at 9,600 is pretty hefty from a guy coming back from injury, but he had a whole entire year. He is healthy. You need about 48 to cover that as 5 times value. And on DK, he's 8,100, which is a nice price. That's $1,500 cheaper, and you're going to need about 40, 41 there. But let's go back to the cruncher, and let's click on Mr. Leonard. We know he is capable of getting you 60 or better. He has 60-point upside. As you can see back just before his last several games that he played, 46, 49, 49, just in his last 3 games before he didn't play anymore. And look what he was doing as a San Antonio Spur, 28 minutes or better. He was doing this. He was doing 1 fantasy point per minute easily, doing it all in 28 to 30 minutes per game. Look at the shots he was taking during those course of those games. 19 or better points per game from the floor. This guy does it all, man. He's a great defender. He can steal the ball. He can block the ball. He can shoot the ball. He can run up and down the court. I mean, there's nothing that Kawhi Leonard cannot do. But like I said, he has 50-point upside. When he has played, the last few times he played Cleveland, the numbers have been ridiculous. Just his career alone in the last 6 games. 36, 46 in 2014-15, 41, 32, 53, 47. He averaged 50 fantasy points if you break this down here over the course of those 2 games. Nearly 35 minutes on average. Over 36% usage rate. Over 38 shots here and 28 shots here. 25 points from the floor and 41 here. I mean, it's just, he has definitely dominated Cleveland, and Cleveland doesn't even have LeBron James anymore, and this is when they had LeBron James. So Kawhi Leonard, definitely in a good spot here today. I think hands down, he is definitely one of my best and my favorite plays here today. My value play at small forward is going to be Mario Hezonja of the New York Knicks. My New York Knicks. As you guys know who know me already, I'm from New York. Mario Hezonja, let's look at him a little bit more here. $5,400 for Hezonja, $4,400 on DK. You need about 27 pretty much to cover him value-wise here as far as price. On Fanduel, on DK, you only need 22. 9.6 points, 3.7 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 19.6 fantasy points in that minimal amount. He was a very integral part of Orlando last year with all the injuries with Simmons. Every time they got hurt, this is the guy that stepped in and put in the minutes. I was impressed with him when I saw the highlights and when I watched a few of the games. And now he's a New York Knick. I'm happy to have him. I'm hoping that he's going to come out and be able to help this group early on. I don't know what the plans are for coach with Mario, but hopefully he starts. I would hope that he would start over Lance Thomas, but there's a possibility he'd come off the bench. I would not have no problem if they go that route. But look at the numbers, man. A little choppy, but he has a lot of upside. Could definitely get you 40, as you can see at 32, 40, 28, 34, 37, 44. He was up and down, but he definitely was able to get 40. He's able to get you 30 or more. His last 3 games, let's go to the cruncher. 3 games against Atlanta last year as an Orlando Magic. 21, 29, and 27 in those 3 games. He had 4 games against Atlanta, but he did not play in 1 game, which was the first game. 14, 8, and 7 floor points. He shot 20 shots in this game. He had 11 here. He had 14 here. Usage rate was definitely great here, 20, 23. Like I said, anything 21, 22 or better is pretty good. 27 to 28 minutes. On average, pretty much about 28 minutes in the 3 games. I mean, solid. Going up against Atlanta. Atlanta, last season, 6th most fantasy points to small forwards in the NBA, giving up 28.5 fantasy points per game. And you got a kid here that's averaging 19.6 and averaged pretty much 25.5 fantasy points. You break this down, I already did. 25.5 fantasy points per game in those matchups. So he is capable of getting to 25 against this team. And this team is a little banged up. Like I said, you know, they have a couple injuries, and I can see Mario Hezonja definitely having a great game here for the New York Knicks. So he's my value play at small forward. We go to the power forwards real quickly. And now we have Mr. Blake Griffin. Sorry about that. At power forward, I definitely like Blake Griffin today. Good matchup against Brooklyn. Again, Brooklyn has their trouble in the front court. You got to definitely pick on them. I picked on them a lot last year every time they would face some strong front court players. Blake Griffin here is in a great spot. 21.4 points per game last year, 7.5 rebounds, 5 and pretty much 6 assists per game, nearly 30, pretty much 39 fantasy points per game, 8,200 here on FanDuel. He's also 8,200 on DK. You need pretty much about 41 fantasy points to cover that. And as you can see, he had these 2 dud games at the end. But look, 50 pointers, 49. His last 3 games prior to that, 49 plus. And then he's had a number of 40-point games. We don't need to go any further than that. I mean, he's a solid player here going up against a very, very weak defense of front court for the for the Brooklyn Nets. We go over here and we check against Brooklyn. And granted, he only had a 30 spot against Brooklyn last year in that 1 game. Well, actually, this is a preseason game. He put up 30 in a preseason game in 21 minutes. So that's more than 1 fantasy point per minute. For you guys that know me about basketball, I always look for those fantasy points per minute. WNBA subscribers, you guys know the deal. And if you're still here from the NBA season when I started the channel, you'll know that as well. I mentioned that quite a bit. But 43 here in the prior game before that in 33 minutes. He is definitely a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. They have him projected for 1 fantasy point per minute again tonight. And we know that he has 50-point upside. He is solid. Going up against Brooklyn. Brooklyn was last in defending power forward. As far as giving up points to power forwards, they were the worst. 28, nearly 29 fantasy points per game. All right. 29 fantasy points per game, and they got a their front court doesn't have anybody that's going to be able to stop Mr. Blake Griffin. Nobody. You go to Brooklyn here. I mean, Hollis Jefferson is more than likely going to be out, and if he is playing, Hollis is not going to be able to handle him. And there's nobody off the bench coming in other than maybe Kenneth Faried, who is a little physical, that they picked up this past offseason. But I don't have nobody there to be scared of. I have nobody that fears me there in the Brooklyn Nets front court that will scare me away from Blake Griffin. So Blake Griffin is definitely my guy. My next guy that I'm looking at is Mr. Josh Jackson in that situation over there with Phoenix, more than likely moving to shooting guard. I mean, he was very impressive last year. 13 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 1.6 assists. I'm not concerned about the assists. I like the fact that he rebounds. I like the fact that he can score. 23.5 fantasy points per game at 5,900. You need about 29, and he's 5,300 on DK. You need 26, 25, 26 over there to meet value. But look at the numbers here. You got to love this. In his last 10 games, last year, he finished with 31 plus or more. 31, 32, 35, 36, 38. I mean, he just finished up in the 40s. Now, granted, there was a lot of injuries on this team, and he really needed to step up, including Devin Booker was out several times last year. But every time he was the man, he stepped up. And now it's him and Devin Booker. It's Devin Booker's show, and he is definitely the second. He is his counterpart. You know, he definitely needs Josh Jackson to have great games here. He does. Another thing about him, he does a little bit of everything, as you can see. He can not only score, he rebounds. Definitely needs to see that on a regular basis. He can definitely pass the ball, but he defends. This is where you get those extra fantasy points. That's what I love about fantasy points. You want basketball players that get a little dirty, get some blocks, get some steals, and he does that. And these are all additional fantasy points that we definitely want as fantasy point players. All right, so Josh Jackson, definitely a fine play here. Going up against Dallas. Dallas was the third worst defending team against small forwards and against forwards in general last year, giving up 31 fantasy points per game. And this is going to be a paced-up game. Dallas is going to have no choice but to try to keep up with the Phoenix Suns. I love Josh Jackson here. I think he's a solid play, guys. Solid play. We go to center. My centers are, man, I am definitely going to go down to Mr. Marc Gasol, 8,100. I think he's in a great spot. I love his price, 8,100. You need about 40, 41. Going up against Indiana, 17 points per game last year, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, nearly 37 fantasy points per game. And like I said, at 8,100, you need 41. On DK, he's only 6,600. You only need 34 there. That is crazy. So Marc Gasol in play, man. Game log, a little choppy towards the end of the year, but he did have a 47 spot against Detroit. And he is definitely capable of getting you 50 or better. Definitely can get you 50 or better. Let's go to the cruncher. We go over to center. We go to Mr. Gasol. Sorry. And Marc Gasol, in his game against Indiana, look at this. 44 and 71 in those 2 games last year. He ate them alive. Look at the shots. Look at the minutes. Look at the usage rate. Look at the floor points. More than 1 fantasy point per minute. More than 1 fantasy point per minute. And more than 1 fantasy point nearly per shot as well. 25.6 usage rate, 33, 35, 39 minutes, pretty much 37 minutes per game. 44, pretty much a 45 spot here and 71 fantasy points here. And granted, he had those 71 points because he shot a ton of shots, but he also did this as well. He had a double-double, 13 rebounds, 5 assists. He also had 5 blocks in that game. Now, there are those moments that he can definitely do that. And he could possibly do that again here, even though that Mr. Miles Turner is back. He signed an extension with Indiana. I don't fear Miles Turner. I think Gasol is in a better place right now with Memphis, and I think that he knows that, you know, now with the coach gone and some of the players gone, he can just focus on playing basketball. So I could see Gasol having a great game here. He has 50-point upside, guys, at 8,100. I think he's a great value. He's also a guy that could get you 1 fantasy point per minute, which you know I love. My next guy here is my value play here at center is Alex Len, who formerly was with the Suns. And I used to like Alex Len. I had him come through for me several times last year when he was with the Phoenix Suns. And so you'll see here, look at the numbers on Fantasy Crunch. 34, 28, 34, 34. He had 4 out of his last 6 games were solid last year. And look at the floor points, 18, 16, 17, 15. The kid can score. He just needs to get the minutes. And when he gets minutes, 26, 25, right here, 32, 27, you get those kind of minutes, you'll be able to get shots. The shots turn into fantasy points. And then he's capable of rebounding. As you can see here, got a double-double here, double-double here, nearly a double-double there. I mean, we go down the list. There were several times that he came through with double-doubles. I think he's in a great spot going up against New York. New York gave up 19.4 fantasy points per game. Actually, 24.4 fantasy points per game, 2 centers last year. And Inez Kanter, man, the Knicks on my team, but Inez Kanter is not a great defender, man. He's capable of scoring, but he's not a great defender. Granted, small sample against New York. I didn't click on that. 19 fantasy points projected for 20 in that particular game. Was only 4,400 in that game, but he did play 23 minutes. Like I said, very, very small sample. He did put up 7 rebounds in that game and had 1 block and 9 floor points. I think he's in a great spot here because at least in Phoenix, he was not getting the kind of minutes that he's going to get here in Atlanta. Here in Atlanta, he is definitely their center. You know, I don't see him not being one that's not going to play. So I think going into this game, I really just like the whole factors. Where is he at? Yeah, against New York. I mean, I just like him here. He's a game-time decision, but all indications are he's going to play. And we know, like I said, Inez Kanter, I love Inez Kanter. He's definitely could score. He's very physical. But Alex Len, in a matchup like this, $1,900 cheaper than Kanter. Kanter, not a great defender. Definitely like Alex Len here for the Atlanta Hawks as a center, as my center value play for today. That's basically it, guys, man. As we evolve, remember, all this is based out of last year's statistics. As we get about 8 or 9, 10 games under our belt, we're going to get more of an idea of where the teams are at, how the coaches are using the players, how many minutes guys are getting, what kind of rotation, who's coming off as the second team, you know, the players coming off the bench. and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we will evolve to more like, efficiency ratios for teams, offensive, defenses, more matchups, who is guarding who. All those other things will come into play, and I'll be able to give you more of a breakdown of why I'm choosing some of the players that we have. But right now, just fantasy points, games, statistics from last year, some basic, how many points a team gives up and so on and so forth. It's basically all I'm going to look at for at least the first 8 to 9, 10 games. All right. Hope you liked the video. Drop a like, man. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. Become part of the DFS Zone community, and make sure you put on those that bell icon so you'll be able to get the notifications of any NBA or NFL lineup advice videos or live shows. I'm not doing a live show yet for the NBA. I probably won't start until either Friday. There will be a reminder I will post on YouTube if I'm going to do a live show. I plan to have 3 or 4 live shows per week for the NBA, but I'm trying to work out the schedule with my kids doing some after school stuff. I'm going to have a schedule in place. If I don't go live by Friday, it will probably be all set up, ready to go for sometime next week. So maybe as of next week, we will be doing the live shows. I also have the 1,000 subscriber giveaway to give away. I'm going to be giving away 2 NBA all-season passes to 2 of my subscribers. I'm going to I'll be hoping to do that. I'm still working on the website. It's taking me longer because, again, I'm a one-man show. I'm doing it myself, and just bear with me. But I will do that 1,000 subscriber giveaway. I'm going to give out 2 packages, like I said. And more than likely, if everything's all set to go with the website, that is going to probably be done live Saturday night during the NFL live show. So, again, I appreciate you guys, man. Drop a like, drop a sub. And other than that, man, have a great day. Good luck tonight, and I'll see you.